listen, I don't want any more bullshit.
Well, okay. Shit. Look, I'm just like you guys. Where do we even start on this one? Remember I told you guys a couple of weeks ago that I was talking to my son after the Tennessee game, and he said, Dad, maybe it's just not our year. And only thing I can say, guys, is, remember I told you then, that's what it's kind of looking like. And after yesterday's game, how can we really conclude anything else and be 100% real about it? Every fucking thing that could go wrong has gone wrong for the Colts this year. Everything. The craziest injuries. You get two of your best players get the same foot injury 5 weeks before the start of the season. Like, who in the fuck's kicker gets a sudden injury at the warm-up before the game on Monday Night Football? It's just fucking insane. If there's any one position where you can't afford to have a serious injury, it's kicker. But to have it right before a game starts is just, I don't even know how to categorize it. It's fucking crazy. But look, there's no sense trying to sugarcoat it, paint it some kind of candy stripe way, or me blow any kind of smoke up your ass. Last night's loss against the Ravens on Monday Night Football is the worst loss of the Frank Reich era. It is the most gut punch of a loss I can remember in a long time that the Colts have actually had. I'd say probably before this one, maybe that collapse against Pittsburgh last season. But this one just fucking tops it. And you know what? The fucked up thing is the Colts are now 1-4. Somehow they lost 31-25 to the Ravens after having a 25-9 lead with like 12 minutes left. Before that, remember, it was 22-3 going into the fourth quarter. But here's the thing. As crazy as it may sound, and I said if they lost to Tennessee, their season was probably over at 0-3. They won last week, and then I said, look, if they don't win against Baltimore, that could be it. And last night, I thought, yeah, this is it. They're done. At 1-4, they're done. But you know what? Upon further review, once the emotions kind of settled and I started looking at it, they're still in the thing based on the next 5 games that the Colts have and the next 5 games that Tennessee has. Remarkably, incredibly, the Colts are still in it. But besides all of that and everything that happened last night, look, there's really good news. As crazy as it sounds, there's really good news, but then there's also terrible news. What we saw yesterday, other than the end result of a loss, other than the last 12 minutes, one aspect of the last 12 minutes was really all very encouraging, all very good. Kevin Bowen tweeted out, this is going to be a statement game. And I said, I don't know about that, Kevin, based on the injuries we have. But I did agree that it was going to tell us something about this team based on how they were able to perform against a team like the Ravens on the road on national TV with all the injuries they had. And we found out that this team, if it gets healthy, this team can cause some fucking problems for a lot of teams. That's the really good news. If you strip away the fucking gut punch of the last 12 minutes in the final score, that's what you got to take out of this one. That's the really good news. Now, the bad news, the terrible news, is they have a fatal flaw that I don't think can be fixed this year. I don't think it can be fixed. And it's going to lead to the same thing happening over and over and over again whenever they play really good playoff caliber teams. And that thing is, this fucking defensive scheme ain't gonna work. It ain't gonna work. Either you got to change that scheme or Flus has got to go. And all of that, both of those situations lead to some complexity that could get messy. And we're going to dive into that in just a second. But before we do, this has been a rather long lead in because look, after that kind of fucking game, I mean, you know what I mean? It kind of calls for a different take. I mean, this is an unprecedented type of shit. But anyway, before we dive into it, let me be a good host and let me welcome you back, my friends. Or if it's your first time here, welcome you to the NFL's #1 uncensored podcast. The only podcast that is not only uncensored, but it's unfiltered, it's untamed, it's going to be controversial, and it's going to be fucking entertaining. The one and only, wholly unique, often imitated, but never duplicated, bullshit-free Colts podcast. The only podcast on planet Earth where you can hear everything there is to talk about our beloved Indianapolis Colts. But here, baby, you're going to hear it with no coach speak, no PR, no spin, no political correctness, and most importantly and most enduringly, 100% with no bullshit. I'm your host, Harkhan Ajala, at your motherfucking service as always. And let's get back to the elephant in the room. But before we do, really quickly, if you're still listening at this point, I know you're not a lame. You're 100% bona fide pimp. So I want you to take your pimp ass index finger, click that like button below so that the algorithm can share this podcast far and wide with all the other real deal, 100% bleeding blue, cool ass Colts fans like yourself. It's free to you, but it's invaluable to us. So make sure you hit the like button right now. Make sure you click the subscribe button and click the bell so you get all the notifications when I send these out. Make sure you share this with another pimp-ass motherfucking Colts fan like yourself. And finally, if you appreciate and dig what we're doing, there's 3 ways below that you can donate to us. $20, $15, $10, $5, even $1 helps. And by popular demand, of course, if you're really one of the VIP diehard supporters, you can click the Patreon link below and join our Bullshit-Free Colts Podcast VIP Patreon. All right? So, now that all that's out of the way, without any further ado, let me open up with what y'all love to hear me say, and I, in fact, love to say, let's chop it the fuck up. I mean, this was a tough one. This was a fucking tough one. But I don't think, as much as I wish I could say differently, I think the Colts are going to do well in the next 5 games because they're playing against some teams with rookie quarterbacks, but against good teams, against playoff caliber teams, especially when those teams have really good quarterbacks, I think we're going to see this over and over and over again. We've seen it many, many times, not to this magnitude, but we've seen this pattern many, many times during the Frank Reich, but more importantly, the Matt Eberflus era, and I don't think it's going to change because there's a fatal flaw in this defense. There really is. But before we dive into that, let's go ahead and give props where props is due. I told you there's a lot to be excited about. As hard as that may seem to think about, there's a lot to be excited about in this game. Now let me say this. Let's get down to some nitty gritty because, you know, when you have something like this, people go fucking ape shit because it's so difficult to take that the first thing we do as fans is we lash out and look for somebody to blame. And every fucking person on the field has been blamed for this loss. From the normal and most, how should I put it? From the most popular whipping boys, Frank Reich and his play calling, the defensive back secondary, Chris Ballard. Okay, people have blamed Carson Wentz. People have blamed all the offensive line. Hey, look, everybody has been blamed on this one. Jim Irsay, his daughters. Okay, but here's the truth. Here's the real truth. As I alluded to earlier, when you have a team like the Colts with the kind of injuries that they have and the injuries they went into in this game, or they went into this game with, major injuries, when you can go up there on the road on national TV in an important AFC game and you can dominate a very good team, at least in their record, a good team with a great quarterback like the Baltimore Ravens, that is something to be excited about. Not only the fact that you did it, but the way you did it. So let's be real about it. Carson Wentz had the best game of his career, and it should have been a win. Here's the thing that was most exciting to me about Carson Wentz's play. All right? Not just his numbers, and his numbers were incredible. 402 yards, 75% completion percentage. He had multiple explosive plays. Okay, even if you don't give him credit for the 76-yard screen, the 42-yard touchdown pass to Pittman was big time. Shout out to Michael Pittman Jr. for the catch, which was incredible. Wentz moved around. He got the ball out quickly. He made great decisions. He was careful with the ball, except for the 2-point conversion. But the truth of the matter there is, I wasn't too worried about that because it looked like, and I have to go back and look at this again, but it looked like Doyle didn't come back on that. I don't know. But either way, let's just say he fucked that up. It doesn't matter. People want to blame him for the fumble. I don't know how. The dude ran in and smashed him untouched. There was no time for him to see him. I was shitting all over Eric Fisher on that play, but it did look like, going back and looking again, it did look pretty obvious that Jason Oweh was offsides. He was early. It is what it is. But Carson Wentz, what was most exciting to me, he did the one thing that I needed to see him do before I was ready to say, hey, I think this is our guy. I feel confident this is our guy. He went out in a big game, played great, and he made the plays when it counted to win the game. That's what you're looking for with a franchise quarterback. That's what you're looking for. Even after that rally, Lamar Jackson and these guys go right down the field 3 straight times in a total of 7 minutes. They go down and score 3 touchdowns 3 straight times and tie the game, get 2 2-point conversions, by the way. Tie the game with 39 seconds left. Carson Wentz comes out and gets his team down the field and in position to make a 47-yard game-winning kick in crunch time with, 1 timeout or 2 timeouts? He took care of business. He got them in position to win. And if Hot Rod isn't hurt, he almost certainly makes that kick. He should make that kick, 47 yards, and they win a huge, Carson puts him on his back, takes him down there, and gets it done. That's what I've been waiting to see from Carson Wentz. That's what was most exciting. Now, fortunately, Hot Rod was injured, and he fucked the kick up, but that wasn't Carson's fault. And I believe if he'd gotten an opportunity in the overtime, he would have delivered. He just didn't. But look, Wentz, I'm in on it. I'm in. People are worried about losing the first-round pick. I don't want to lose a first-round pick, but at this point, the way he's playing, if we have to give up that first-round pick, the way he's playing right now, he was worth a 1 and a 3. Fucking don't at me. Real talk. A franchise quarterback that can take you to the promised land is worth a 1 and a 3. Period. Now, I don't even have to sit here and go round and round about how incredible Jonathan Taylor looked. I don't have to go round and round about how great Pittman Jr. looked. We even had Paris Campbell came up with some clutch catches. Shout out to Paris, man. Way to fucking get it done in the big time when the lights came on. I was happy about that. Zach Pascal was his normal clutch self. Mo Alley Cox had some big catches. Jack Doyle had some huge catches. They were clicking. And this was the best thing. Go back and watch the game. I know it's hard. Just stop it at 12 minutes left. But go back, watch the first, 40 minutes or whatever it was, 43 minutes. And if you take away the offsides where the guy blows past Fisher, the offensive line played very well. And this was not against some sad sack defense. This Baltimore defense is a very good one. The offensive line played well. They gave Wentz time several times. They opened up holes in the running game. The offensive line played well. And look, for an offensive line without Quentin Nelson and without Braden Smith, that was very, very encouraging. Happy to see Matt Pryor had moved into the starting lineup, and he should never move out. He's now, when we get Smith back, now we finally got a guy that can provide some quality depth, because Matt Pryor took care of fucking business yesterday. Real talk. Between Matt Pryor and Chris Reed, who also looked great again, now we got depth on that offensive line. You get Braden Smith back, you get Big Q back. Now you got two guys, and Danny Penner's looked pretty good too, but at least we know for a fact we got two guys who are solid quality backups. That's saying a lot. That's a great thing to see. Now the defense, let's keep in mind a couple of things. No Rock Ya-Sin. No Kwity Paye. Rhodes still hobbled. He went out later on in that fourth quarter. Darius Leonard looking much better, but still not nowhere near 100%. I can still see that. You could see that as he was trying to run that fumble back. He's like, nah, I ain't going to make it. Let me hit lateral of this. Beautiful thought. Bullshit call by the refs to call it back. But you know what? After that, the offense came out and was like, okay, that's cool. Y'all going to take the touchdown away? We're going to run this fucker right down their throat. We're going right down the field and score a touchdown again. That was big time. They came to play yesterday. They contained Lamar Jackson extremely well. The whole game. The whole game. They shut down the running game of the Baltimore Ravens. And then, you know, when things got desperate, the Ravens were like, fuck it, we got to pass. And then, again, this being the season from hell, clearly, for the Colts, the thing that you couldn't afford, you're already missing Rock Ya-Sin, you're already missing T.J. Carey. Then you get Rhodes going out. You get Rodgers hurt for a minute. You got to bring in two guys, Bo Peep or Bo Teep, whatever his name, and that other guy, Chesley or some shit that I guess they just got off the street. Like, when that happens, it's a prescription for disaster. And you saw that because they immediately went right after Bo Peep or whatever his name is. As soon as he came in, they got the big 40-plus yard touchdown pass to A.J. Brown, I think it was. So people are like, they should have went man-to-man. Well, that's what you get when you go man-to-man with those guys. But all that being said, look, why did they lose the game? Look, guys, you people want to say Frank Reich's play calling. I understand your frustration, but the truth is, yesterday is the best offensive game Frank has called this year. Period. Everybody wants to argue about, well, he should have went for it on third down instead of trying to go for the field goal. I'm cool with that. I would have personally at that point tried to roll out with an RPO roll out Wentz where he's got the option to throw it or run for it. You know, it's 8 yards, but look, even if you only get 4 yards, 3 yards, 5 yards, any amount closer puts you in a better position to make the field goal, right? I get what Frank's thinking was, but the truth is, what, they lose 3 yards or 2 yards there or whatever the case, they didn't get any. And they did exactly what Baltimore was expecting. So that didn't work out, but let's be honest about this too. Here's the thing. What's-her-name comes in to attempt a 37-yard field goal. Remember, that one got blocked. That wasn't even a situation where he missed. They fucking let Calais Campbell block it. I mean, that's not on Reich. That should have been a field goal. And if it had been, that game is over. If Hot Rod had hit the extra point, the game is over. And a lot of people are like, well, Reich should have just went for the extra point instead of the 2-point when they were up 22-3. Maybe so, but here's the thing. He's thinking, look, this guy might miss another one. Let's take a chance let's take a shot at getting the 2 points, and then we get this one and the one we lost. If they get that 2-point conversion, they win the game. Whatever the case, here's the truth. I mean, because it's so frustrating, you want to lash out and blame somebody. I get it. And there was blame going every which way, but here's the truth. And this comes back to the point I was making from the very beginning. And this issue is much more concerning than blaming it on any of the others. The truth of the matter is this, and this cannot be denied, guys. This cannot be denied, peeps. The reason they lost the fucking game is because they gave up 4 straight long touchdown drives with 2 2-point conversions. 1-2. Dual 2-point conversions amongst those 4 touchdown drives. 4 straight touchdown drives. The first 3 that happened during regulation to tie up the game, they gave up the first one in 2 minutes, the next one in 2 minutes, and the third one in 3 minutes. And again, 2 of those 3, they got 2-point conversions on. Now, there's your game right there. Even if the kicker can't kick, even if Frank fucked up on that call, whoever else you want to blame, there's why you lost. You cannot give up 4 straight touchdown drives in 12 minutes and the overtime. The overtime, you know what I mean? They just went right down the field and scored a touchdown. That was it. Now, yes, they were injured. And trust me, that's the biggest issue. If you have Rock in there and you have Rhodes and you have your main guys, yeah, I feel pretty confident they get a stop or at least slow down one of those drives to where the Ravens simply just run out of time. But, here's the problem. And this is what I've been building towards. That defensive scheme has a fatal flaw. And matter of fact, there's 2 of them, okay? But the scheme itself has a fatal flaw. Here's the thing. Number 1, it's a super simple scheme. Now, it's a scheme that's favored by some coordinators, coaches, because it's so simple, because that makes it easy for young players to pick it up. Okay, fine. Then again, it's the fucking NFL. Like, don't draft a motherfucker if they can't learn the plays. They can't learn the scheme, right? But that's the thing. It's simple. The idea being it's easy for guys to pick it up, and it allows players to play faster because they don't have to do a lot of thinking. Okay, that's all fine and good. But here's the problem with that scheme, that cover 2 shell scheme. It may just be too simple for 2021. Okay, listen, here's the thing. Here's the thing. Before we even go there, understand this. So Ballard likes that scheme. And Ballard, by the way, hired Matt Eberflus. Then he hired Josh McDaniels, and Josh McDaniels did what, bitch motherfuckers do, right? Josh McDaniels did what fuckboys do. He did some fuckboy shit. Okay. So now they move on, and then they hire Frank Reich. Now, Frank comes into the position like this. He gets hired, but Eberflus is already here. So Frank doesn't get the opportunity to hire someone who runs the scheme he wants to run. I doubt it would be that scheme. That's just my thinking. At any rate, kind of puts Frank in a delicate situation, though, doesn't it? Because Ballard's the guy who chose this guy. But if Frank wants to go a different direction, is Ballard going to be on board? And then, think about what that relationship must be like. I mean, I didn't really pick this motherfucker. Now I'm his boss, but, does he really feel that way? Since, it's you hope they hit it off, but that's an awkward situation, especially if I'm Reich and I really don't want this defense. But anyway, getting back to the issue with the defense in particular. So Ballard wanted to run it. Matt Eberflus runs it. Here's the fucking problem. Even at best, in order for the scheme to work, you must have a dominant, blitzering, suffocating pass rush. You have to. The defense itself is designed to cause teams to go on long drives. It's designed to make teams go up and down the field like dink and dunk, underneath, etc. The idea being, our pass rush is good enough that we're either going to get to you during all these plays or we're going to force you into a mistake. If you don't have that blistering pass rush, you got fucking problems. And this is what we have seen. This is why you see the pattern over and over and fucking over. This is why the Colts never seem to be able to hold a team down, because the defense itself is designed to allow teams to go up and down the field. That's what's going to happen based on the design of the defense. Then the idea is we're either going to make you make a mistake along the way, we're going to get you in third and long, and we're going to send our pass rush after you, or we're going to clamp down when you get inside the 20. Now, here's the problem again. When you play against really good offenses and great quarterbacks, we're going to clamp down inside the 20 ain't so fucking easy. You get what I'm saying? Especially when you're playing against one like Lamar Jackson, who is a weapon in and of himself with his legs. You know, when they get down around the 5-10 yard line, I mean, you got a fucking problem, because Lamar can take off, and you know that, so you have to play the pass rush a certain way. Now, that brings us to the fatal flaw amongst the Colts team. You ain't got the pass rush. You ain't got the pass rush to make the scheme work. So you keep trying to play this scheme that you don't have the tools, the necessary parts to play effectively. And you got to kind of question, why do you decide to run this? In my opinion, you're going backwards. You decide you want to run this scheme, and then you're trying to go out and get the players for it, instead of getting the best players you can find and then allowing the strength of the players to determine what kind of scheme you run. That is a better way to do it. What they've done is now they got this scheme, and it demands that you have great pass rush with only 4 people. They don't have it. They haven't been able to get it. And look, I'm not even necessarily beating Ballard up for it, because the truth of the matter is, it ain't an easy thing to just go out and get a bunch of pass rushers, effective pass rushers in the draft. The draft is inexact. Pass rushers is one of the hardest things to find. If it wasn't, don't you think every fucking team would have them? I just think the whole situation is kind of untenable, and it makes it very difficult, because you got to find those pass rushers. That's why they took the risk on Dio this year. They were like, look, we got to have 2 good ones. We're going to take Pay, and we're going to take Dio, because even though he might not play for a while, they think he's great enough, a great enough talent. He could be the one. We got to take this chance, because we got to have pass rushers. Now, looking at Ballard's track record on drafting pass rushers, you know, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm confident Dio is a slam dunk. We'll see. I hope he is. But that's part of the problem with the scheme. The scheme is very simple, and it's a scheme that leaves all those open holes in the zone, and great quarterbacks are going to carve that motherfucker up if they're standing back there with time. So if you can't get pass rush on them, you're going to get lit up. And that's why we've seen time and time again, Colts get a lead in a game, they say, hey, they should win this game, and here comes the other team. We saw it last night. We saw it against Pittsburgh last year. We've seen it multiple times, even against teams that aren't that great. You saw how Gardner Minshew carved them up last year in the first game of the year. It happens because, look, any NFL quarterback, if it's just a bunch of fucking gaping holes out there and guys running open, they're going to be able to find them if they have time. Without pass rush, the scheme won't work, no matter who's back there in the secondary. Because even if you got shut down corners, they're in zone. So they're giving up those cushions that fans are always complaining about. That's designed. That's by design. That's the scheme. We want everything in front of us. We want to make them go a long way down the field. And our pass rush is supposed to disrupt that for us. But when you don't have the pass rush, well, you get what you had last night. That game was lost because you gave up 4 straight long touchdown drives with 2 2-point conversions. If you do that in any game, I mean, that's usually a loss, right? And like I said, I don't think it can be fixed because I'm not even convinced Reich can go to Ballard and say, I want to run something different, man. This guy needs to go. Maybe he could do that after the season. Maybe. But it could be awkward. But I will say this. I believe they need to run a different scheme. Even if Kwity Paye and Deo are the next coming of Freeney and Mathis, I believe they need to run a different scheme. And here's why. Go back and remember when they were playing this same scheme under Coach Dungy, all those years with Manning and in the triplets, Freeney and Mathis. Look, even with Freeney and Mathis, teams were going up and down the field on the Colts back then. But you had Freeney and Mathis. They oftentimes were able to come up with a big-time sack and a strip sack, etc., make a play. But like I said, even back then, the Colts defense wasn't shutting anybody down. And the truth is, if you look at the Colts, we used to talk about it all the time back then. You look at the Colts record in the playoffs, even during the Manning years. One of the reasons that it wasn't as strong as it could have been, and one of the reasons that I believe they didn't win more than one Super Bowl, is because their defense was never dominant, except that year they did win the Super Bowl. It got dominant in the playoff, caught fire, and became dominant. Other than that, it was always difficult. The Colts were going to score, but, they couldn't necessarily stop anybody else from scoring. And if they got slowed down or had turnovers or something didn't go well and they weren't firing on all cylinders on offense, they almost always lost, period, because their defense always gave up points. Now, remember, that was the best case scenario with Peyton fucking Manning, Reggie Wayne, Marvin Harrison, Edgerrin James playing in the offense. Those are fucking 4 Hall of Famers. And it was still tough sledding because of that style of defense. But, Dungy was able to make it work because they had an all-world offense. But you need like an all-world offense. See, that type of defense works when you got a 2-score lead. Now you don't have to worry about the run. You can just let your vicious pass rush go, right? And, they got to try to get down the field quickly, so it doesn't work if a team's dinking and dunking you. It doesn't hurt you when you got a 2-score lead, right? Normally. But here's another problem. That happened 20 years ago. This is 2021. In today's NFL, the rules hadn't changed and everything back then like they have now. Today's NFL, the rules have even been changed. It gives the offense a huge advantage because they want scoring. They want teams, they've made it easier for teams to score. So it's already easier for teams to score in the passing game. So when you're playing that cover 2 and being like, yeah, go ahead and move down the field, man, that's a problem. I just don't think, I think it's too simple for the modern NFL. And even though that could be up for debate, what isn't up for debate at this point is that they do not have a vicious pass rush to be able to make the scheme work. So I think, unfortunately, and you can let me know in the comments if you agree, one thing's for certain, at the end of this season, we'll be able to look back over it and you can tell me if I was right or not. But my guess is this is what we're going to see from this team whenever they're playing really good teams with really good quarterbacks. The quarterback's going to be able to do it to them when they need to. You with me? Now, again, the good news is over the next 5 games, I would not be surprised if the Colts win all 5 of them. And if they do, they're going to be right back in the hunt because Tennessee's next 5 games is fucking brutal. And it includes the Colts here in Indianapolis. Now, if that happens, they're going to be back in the mix. And I would not be surprised if it happens. Again, those are rookie quarterbacks. Those are teams that aren't as great. But when they come up against the great quarterbacks, I think they're going to struggle. And that's going to be a problem if you're trying to make noise in the playoffs. Because that's where the big boys are going to be playing. The best quarterbacks are going to be there. I think they got to move to a new scheme, but I don't know how the politics of it would all work to do it. But we will see. If nothing else, the offense looked fantastic yesterday. Carson Wentz looked fantastic. He really emerged, I felt like, as a leader, both on the field and then off, especially after the game. Listening to his comments, him telling the team we got to have a killer instinct. Now he can definitely stand in front of them and lead them because they've seen him do his thing out there and lead them to what should have been a big win. But I don't think this defense is going to happen. I think it's going to always do, even when you get the starters back, you're always going to be giving up big plays and letting teams get back in it or come back and beat you in the end if they have really good quarterbacks. Y'all let me know what you think in the comments. Tell me everything you thought about this game. You think I'm on target, or you think I'm way off, or I missed something, or I'm just dead wrong, or whatever. I'm really interested because y'all are the best fucking fans that I've ever come across. And it's a pleasure hearing what you have to say and seeing what you think. Either way, we're 1-4. It is what it is. We got the next 5. If we take care of business, even if we just go 4-1, we'll be sitting at 5-5, and we'll be back in the game as long as one of those wins is against Tennessee. Okay, but it's on now. This is it. We got to do it. Either way, it's going to be interesting to see how it turns out, and I want to hear what you guys have to say. In the meantime, I'm going to say to you guys the same thing. The same thing. I'm not changing it up. I'm saying to you guys what I say to the Colts players, coaches, head office that might be listening, because I know some of them do, because they get at me. In spite of this fucking back-breaking, nut-crunching, smashing loss, let's regroup. Let's go out and run through these next 5 games. Let's get back in the fucking playoff competition. And let's go out and win another fucking Lombardi, baby. Peace.